There's been readings that I've had that, you know, they're too personal. You can't fake it. It's very clear in the ways that like the whole picture is painted, right down to voices that have been taken on during the reading that, you know, Scott comes out with like literally sounding like the person. I know there's no doubt who they were.
I really believe she visited him.
He just wants you to know he knows how much you loved him.
And everybody in the room, their jaw just
knowing
dropped.
exactly what someone needs to hear.
That she called
you
me,
don't mind
but
if I
nobody
take my
really.
shoes off? It was incredible.
And then I was like, oh my God.
There's more after this life. This is Ripple Road.
Hello and welcome back to Ripple Road. This is episode 9. Finally getting into the years covering my mediumship. If you've been following all the episodes leading up till now, it all comes to this point where I am now running around like a crazy person doing reading after reading after reading.
There were times that I really, really needed to connect with my Nana, like my best friend on the planet, me and my sister. We lost her, and it's like, you know, your heart's ripped out. She was like a second mom to us. We were with her all the time growing up. She was our best friend, and there was times that we needed to connect with her, and we were able to do that. And you described her to the T. For example, this is something you couldn't have done any other way than to see it. She said there was a time that my sister had been, and this is exactly how it came through, but she was sitting on the toilet and she was just crying, like really terribly bad, missing her. And like, I need you. I miss you. I want you there. And you said that she was right then at that moment able to be right in front of her and put her hand on her shoulder and was like, you know, there for her, and she saw her. And one of the things that we knew this was real is because then you said, and it was such a cute, funny moment at the same time and so deep for us. In that moment, she then looked up, looked to the left, looked down the vanity that my sister has, which would have been literally right to the left of her toilet if my Nana was standing there, and said, and man, is this room still a mess. And that to us was like, how? Because her nickname from my Nana was Messy Jessie. And growing up, when she and I shared a room together, it would always be like, she always made note of this, like Sarah's half is clean and Jessie's half is Messy Jessie. And she would always kind of rag on her. For her to say that, we just like cracked up. We were like, oh my gosh, like, and it is a mess. It's a huge mess, her vanity. It's cluttered. And that was always like my sister. She was always like cluttered with stuff everywhere. And that like was just such a moment of comfort at the same time as being like, oh my gosh, like when she struggled, she was there.
My goal in doing every reading is to make everyone feel better. Each and every person that I sit with, I want to get up in their like heart and soul to find the things that are like tripping them up, you know, whether it's psychological issues, emotional issues. I want to like relieve them. I want to use this sacred space of mediumship and channeling energies to bring you to a place where you feel better about yourself and the life that you're living. I guess I'm trying to get like inside of each person's kind of like personal, private, emotional world to heal them, to be there for them, to be present for them, to tell them it's not so bad and there's a light at the end of the tunnel and everything's going to be okay, to make you feel loved and appreciated and important. It's like I'm doing that, and in a way I'm kind of doing that for myself in that moment when I'm like in the flow of energy between you and the people in spirit that are still with you and they remain connected to you. All this love is coming through. It comes through me. I can feel it. It's like I'm being healed. I get this perspective like maybe I'm not such a bad person. I mean, look, if you've been listening to each episode up till now, you'll know like I didn't always have it great. You know, like there were moments where it was kind of depressing and nobody was there to heal me. So it's like I want to be there for you if you're going through that. And in a way, we can all help each other. This sounds like lovey-dovey groovy, but like it makes sense of the hippie mentalities that I hung out with that were my stepmom's friends. It makes sense of all of the writing stuff, the poetry, the self-expression. It makes sense of like the nightmares and looking for guidance. I'm kind of using mediumship to work in that space, that very intimate, emotional, private space, and it heals me. So I love it. I love that energy. I'm chasing that euphoria, man. I don't want the darkness anymore. I want to bring everybody into the light, including myself. I love being a channel for that healing. So I'm going to chase after it. Every reading, I'm going for it, It's never good enough for me. I'm always pushing myself, right? Like, people say that children that were raised in the kind of environment that I was, they end up being like overachievers and people pleasers, like guilty as charged, that's me. But like, it's so awesome. It's so awesome to see the effects of like the harmonic energy that comes together in a reading. It breaks apart this little stone inside of your heart, this little thing that you'd been carrying around all your life. And I just want to jackhammer in there and pour love in there, So it's not even me. I'm just a conduit to it. If I can open myself up wide enough, sensing and feeling your energy and the energy of those in spirit, and produce that bridge of healing, man, I'm going to run after that feeling in every single reading. I want to give that to everybody. If I'm in a big group reading with 30 people, I want to heal 30 people today. That's what I want to do. I mean, why not? Because I love my work. Because I want to show up today. I want it to be a good day at the office. I want to come away feeling like I'm walking on a cloud, like, dang, that was awesome. I'm doing my life's purpose. That's a great feeling,
Were we there enough? You always have that guilt, like even though we did everything with her, for her, like because she was in her assisted living and stuff, like in the end, did she suffer with, the cancer and stuff that we never even had to bring to your attention. Honestly, you just knew how this went. And you turned around and you said, she was fine. Like, believe it or not, and you said, like, again, pretty specifically, like, no, actually, they had her pretty good on in the pain department. She was on some stuff that helped with that, almost that's not something that she even, holds in her mind now or thinks about, or that's just not what's coming through to you. And that, we were always there for her, and she's very grateful and appreciates that so much. And in fact, the only thing that really she even thinks about that bothered her the most was the issue that she had with, and again, this is very personal, but you couldn't have known it. You know what I mean? It was an incontinence thing with her because of the cancer. That was the thing that, because she was such a clean and aware of that type of stuff woman, that was the one thing that bothered her. And that was literally her to a T. So it was another thing that we were like, oh my gosh, like that's just stuff you don't pick up and find out from any other way than communicating that directly from her.
When I first started out and tried to figure out my routine, it was like I have to keep my feet flat on the ground, take my shoes and socks off, do the meditation that I learned that brings in this angelic white light energy, kind of clear my head and go into this trancy headspace. And then I can sense and feel things, that becomes like kind of the routine now. It's like almost like that's going to work for me. All right, Tuesday at 7, I got to be up in Northeast Philly. Wednesday at 1, I have to be over in Wildwood, New Jersey. This Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to be over in Delaware and Chester. Maybe I should get a hotel room. Maybe I should crash at my friend's house. Like, do I drive all the way back down to Cape May County in between? I don't know. I'm running around like a crazy person doing readings. And every time it's like, knock, knock. Hey, I'm Scott, the medium. Hey, come on in. Hey, how's it going? Oh, we're sitting back here. Okay. And there's the, kitchen and the pepperoni and cheese spread. Everybody always has pepperoni and cheese, And I take a little piece of cheese here and there. Okay, sure. Gotta watch what I eat before a reading. Can't eat too many heavy things, Sometimes I'd show up and they're like, we're just sitting down for dinner. I'm like, yar? Didn't you tell me to show up at 6 p.m.? Yeah, I figured you'd sit down for dinner with us. I'm like, yeah, I don't do that, but go ahead and eat. That's cool. I'll hang out and wait. And as they're like eating their spaghetti dinner, I'm like, so Yeah, how'd you guys hear about me? And I'm just like trying to make the most of it. You never know what you're going to walk into. Sometimes, knock, 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 here I am. Hey, I'm Scott, the medium. Yeah, hey, come on in. Okay. And then, like everybody just looks at me. Everyone's nervous. Nobody's saying anything. Yeah, I thought we would do it in here. Okay, so we're all ready. Okay, you're ready to go now? Okay, well, I just drove like 2 hours, so can I just like take a minute to like decompress? Yeah, take whatever time you need. As they're all staring bug-eyed at me. Okay, you know what? We'll just jump into the reading now. You know what? I'm like, my neck is tense, my shoulders are sore. I'm like, yeah, I've been driving for 2 hours. That's cool though. That's cool. I'll just take a little extra time meditating. You never know what you're walking into. Each group of people, each house, they're all talking. They're used to their friend group. They're used to their family. They think like their, I don't know, attitude and disposition is normal. And then you go to another person's house, completely different energy. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes people walk in, oh my gosh, hey, I saw you online in your YouTube video. I feel like I know you already. Give me a hug. And you're like, all right, I'll take a hug. That's cool, And then other times you show up and people are like so cold and they're folding their arms and they're like, like scowling. They're scowlers. Why do scowlers hire me? I never could figure that out, I think they want to think they're into it, but then when it comes time, they just seize up. Yeah, I've seen it all.
Sometimes it's a message that's like, a loved one that's close to us, but we've gotten messages more than once that's like, hey, your close friend's coming through, and by way of like, oh, this is who they hung with or whatever, and they have a message. So can you get this message to somebody else? And it was so telling perfectly, where you're like, they needed to hear that.
So as my name is like getting passed around and everybody's kind of referring me to their friends and family, oh, we had this guy, you gotta hire him. It was crazy. He brought through my mom and she mentioned your name, It's like the spirit referral. It'll be like, oh, do you have a brother, Greg? I do. Oh, well, my mom is here, and she wants to tell your brother, just keep staying at that career, keep plugging away at it. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Could you just pass that message along? Sure. And then like a week later, hi, I'm Greg, and you were at a reading with my sister. I'd like to hire you. I'm like, sweet. Spirit referrals. Cool. I'm down in Cape May County, New Jersey. It's like this little peninsula, nowhere to go but north. So every time there was a new referral, it would always be like 10 extra minutes. And so it got to the point with this I'm only 10 minutes further rule, where it was like, I'm driving up to Trenton, Princeton, New Brunswick. I'm driving up to Hoboken. Like, what? Manhattan? Like, going to the East Village? Like, I had to take a train in. I had to park. Like, hold up. You're talking like 3 hours away, one way at this point. The 10-minute rule has got to stop. So I finally made a map and put it on my website. This is the coverage area. This is where Scott will travel to, and it's like this green area is where I will go. I link to that map. Joanne is now kind of like my secretary. She's like handling all of the emails, So people will email in asking for a reading, and it goes right to her inbox, and she'll respond, and it's like, here you go, Joanne. Because I'm like a control freak. I'm like, don't forget to include the map. Don't forget to mention, it's a flat rate. It doesn't matter who does or doesn't get read. It's this flat rate. Don't forget to mention that. Oh, also let them know that everyone will be read at one time. You have to do, okay, you know what? I'm going to write an email, and then you just copy and paste it to every new reading request. And here's the link to the coverage map, and here's the list of dates that I have available. I don't want to work next weekend because I've got a family function. So here's, and I would send Joanne all the updates. Here's my updated availability. You know what? I tweaked that email. Now it just says this. I felt like it was too much for people to read. Here it is. So copy and paste this one. Are you sending the new email, Joanne? Are you sending the old one? Like, oh my God, she put up with so much of my shit. It's funny. She's wonderful, though, I don't mind. I'm like, are you sure? Okay.
I think the first small group reading that I had with you, my father came through, and you were saying that he's happy. He likes it up there. Everything's good, but he misses McDonald's. And so that was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? My parents went to McDonald's all the time. I used to yell at them. I'm like, don't eat that stuff. You said, oh, your dad, he's like right there standing behind you, and he has his hand kind of on your shoulder, and he's saying, oh, my middle child, my youngest daughter. So I am the middle child of 7, and I am the youngest girl. Wow, I mean, how the heck did you know that, right?
Sometimes I'll show up to a space and it's like, man, it's not clicking. And I don't know why. And it's like, what are you going to do? Just like give them a little something, give them like, oh yeah, there's like a grandmother. Well, of course, like everyone's got a grandmother that passed. And like, I know, man, I want it. I want to make this thing happen for you too. But like, there's so many factors. There's so many layers of like, energy things, dynamics. There's like patterns that I see that start to emerge after I do hundreds and hundreds of readings where I'm like, damn, that one was awesome. What was going on? Man, that thing came together. That was amazing. I felt like angels were coming through me. I felt like, I don't even know, like I'm on cloud 9 after that reading. What was going on in that reading, And then like the very next day, I'll drive to another reading and I'm like, something's not right. Something's not right. Like, I want to get it. I don't know, Is there like a Billy? No, we don't know any Billy. Maybe it's like William. No, there's no William. There's no Billy. And I'm like, all right, now I'm starting to feel like maybe these people aren't open to it. Maybe the energy's blocked. Sometimes I'd be so wiped out, like it would be a really challenging reading for me. And it drains my energy sometimes. When I'm sitting with people who are very reserved or guarded or skeptical, they always say, like, I'm open-minded. I'm like, I don't mean open-minded. I mean, like, you got to be open-hearted, maybe open in your heart. Oh, I'm open to this. I'm totally open. Okay, but you're not, though, because I can feel it. Sometimes it's like picking away at these people to get them to open up, And it takes a lot of my personal energy to deliver that same quality experience. Otherwise, what? It doesn't work? Then it sounds like crap? Then I have to hand their money back to them? I've driven 2.5 hours one way to a reading that I show up and they're scowling at me and they're cold and they're hostile and I try my darndest to do the reading. I try so hard. I do the friendly shtick. I make dumb jokes. I try to loosen them up. I try to explain things to them. I say, you got to give me a minute here. It might sound a little wishy-washy in the beginning, but once we're up over the hump, you'll see. You just have to let your guards down. Just relax. And I give them the whole thing. Like, I'm not going to tell you any bad news. It's all a flow of energy between me and you. And they just don't get it. Like, some people, they just think what they think, and there's no way you can change their mind about it. They're like suspicious about me. No matter what their friends or family told them, there's all kinds of different personalities. And so there's been times where I'll come out of it like, dude, I've been trying for like an hour. It'll be like, there's a grandmother here. Well, of course, everybody has a grandmother in spirit. I know. Just bear with me. It's like, I don't know, on your mom's side of the family, I'm trying, and it's like an hour and a half in, and I'm like, all right, I got to throw in the towel, guys. This is it. It's not working out today. You can land, if you really push yourself too hard, into a place that feels so like emotionally empty that it's borderline like depression or despair. It's bleak. You have a bleak emotional outlook in that moment because you have nothing left in you. You've given all of your psychic energy away. And you produced no good quality experience for anyone. It's a 2.5 hour highway drive, man. So it's like, I'll call Elise, I'll call Joanne. It's like, just try to pass the time. I'll stop at a convenience store, get a coffee. I'll stretch, get back on the highway. And I would just vent to Joanne, like, so it got to the point after, months and years are passing that I really get to know Joanne's whole family, It's like, imagine now I'm reading Joanne, I'm reading her daughter, I'm reading her son, I'm reading her nephews, I'm reading all kinds of people in her family. So I'm getting to like know them all.
Joanne sent me things that you had sent her, and one of them that kind of sticks out in my head, you had said to her once, this is a message from your dad. He wants her to know that whenever you start like feeling really emotional, like if you're upset, like you suddenly feel emotional and you're crying, and that's your dad, like he's with you. you had said, like, whatever she wants, she needs to talk to him. She needs to ask him for it. Like, he wants to help her. He knows that she's struggling and he wants to help her. She just needs to tell him what she wants. And I have actually done that, like really sat down and talked to my dad and, just told him, can you help me with this and can you help me with that? And I have seen so many like positive results from that. Like I really do feel like he can hear me because of what you said to me about that.
It's 10 years now. So I was about 12 years old, obviously with, my anxiety and stuff. I think that was the main reason that I was so interested in it, how, it could be resolved if it was like a thing that would get better. And you talked a lot about that and how the years like, 19, 20, 21, 22, where I'm at now, would be like these resolution years. I've just come a long way. And I remember like getting hope from that was important because I didn't have it as a kid. I didn't have any idea how long or how bad or what this really was because I was 12 years old and I was just a kid with anxiety,
For like a month we were talking about like reading and like what else, blah, blah, blah. It was like, oh my God. Every time there's something going on, I want to be like, I wish I could just text Scott. Like I was just like upset. I was like, Scott readings are so freaking, like I just loved it. It was like, addicted to Scott readings, like wanted to know everything.
And at one point, her daughter, for her like senior high school thesis thing or something, was writing this paper on psychic mediumship because she had been, read by me so many times, either in person, on the phone, or me giving her mother messages to pass along to her, that she's like fascinated by it, At this point, I've said so many crazy specific things that were like only in her head or only she knew. So she's going to write this paper on mediumship, and she was going to have me come in and do like a presentation. And the high school principal didn't think it was proper to have a psychic medium come into the school. I don't know if there's like students whose families were like hyper religious and were against that. So he just put the brakes on that whole thing. And it left her like with like a couple of days left to like do this presentation. What's she going to do?
They were like, it could be controversial. It was like the most BS excuse.
So I was like, I'll make you a quick 10-minute video that you can present to the class, So I did. And then I used that video and I was like, I'm going to go ahead and post that to my YouTube. That'll be good. Like, I don't think people understand this. I didn't understand this. How could I expect anybody else to understand it? If like 90% of the psychic mediums that you can hire are more traditionally clairvoyant, they're visionary, or they hear and sense things in a different way, it doesn't drain them. They don't have to worry about like if it doesn't come together. Maybe they exist on a spectrum of quality of details where like as long as it's showing up somewhere on that spectrum, they're good. They're getting paid, Maybe they were vague one time and really clear another time, but it's all somewhere on that valid spectrum for them. Whereas me, it's like if it's not coming together, it fails tragically and epically. It is a dumpster fire, It's just like all of that energy that's in the room is created by the group of people we're sitting with. It's created by me, myself. It's created by those in spirit. If everything harmonizes and clicks, it's like we are clear for takeoff. Amazing things happen. But if any one little ingredient throws it off, you can't just like, let's just keep going. It's like, cooking a giant kettle of soup and someone comes along and puts too much pepper in it. Hey, if all the other ingredients were good, what, is that their fault? No, but there's too much pepper. Guess what? The soup is ruined. Sometimes if somebody's like truly skeptical and they're sitting in a reading with everybody else, it's like you can't just tell that person to go into the kitchen and then it's going to be okay. The pepper is in the soup. It's done. Sometimes even telling the person to just leave altogether, it would work. Sometimes that would work. But other times it's like if the reading's already skewed, it just doesn't come together. And then what do? You try your best, And if you're like, there's a grandmother here, and it's like people are like, I need more. I need more than that to believe in it. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I need more too to feel the love. So I don't know what to tell you, I think other psychics and mediums out there would be like, I'm just going to go forward with what I'm getting. And I know that what I'm getting is valid. I'm confident in it. And it is what it is. If it's not enough for you, then that's on you. That's on you because I said what I said and I did my job. Whereas with me, I'm like, I can feel that you're not believing in it. I can feel that you need more. I can feel that that harmonizing circle of energy isn't quite coming together. And I need to feel that it is coming together. That's how I work. Otherwise, I don't know. It's like, how can I even be sure that the information's valid? How can I be sure of the after effects of it? I guess other psychics and mediums out there don't really get involved with like the after effects of their message. They just kind of drop it and run. They're just like in the business of being like specific and as clear as they can, and then that's it. But for me, like even the energy of the future of the message, I can feel it as I'm saying it. Like by saying this message to you, I can tell that it's going to lead you to this place. And if that place, like even a year from now, is bad, then currently right now sitting with you, I can't give you that message. That's how it feels for me. Literally so many layers and factors go into this. When it clicks, it's amazing and transformative. When it doesn't, who knows, man? Your guess is as good as mine. There are some things that are obvious and some things that I really don't know why it didn't click, you know? So I'm always struggling to figure out how to make more readings work more often in the same dramatic way, you know?
I used to go home and tell my mom, tell her different stories like this. She loved it. So then another reading, he didn't come through. This is, a few years later. And then I was just like, where's my dad? He usually comes through. And you said, well, he's busy right now. He's got things to do up there. And he's just waiting. He doesn't want to miss her when she comes through. And so that was in August. And then my mom passed away in October. Kind of like, you told me, but you didn't really say it. So it was, but as soon as she passed, it's like one of the first things I thought of. It was crazy. So that was pretty strong.
Her brother was sitting beside me, and you were talking about a Maria. You're like, Maria, and her brother just shut you down because he just pretended he did not know what you were referencing. And you were talking about it. They were talking about his wife. And my head just turned, and I was staring at him like, come on, say something. He was just like, he was so negative about it that you were like, okay, now I'm getting shown the door. Like, all right. Whoever was talking to you, they could not get past, like, they were so adamant about the Marie thing that you were like, I can't get past this. And then when you left, he's like, I don't know what he's talking about. We were like, you know exactly. He was talking about Marie, your wife. Like, hello, who else is the other? We only know one Marie.
I'm going to put more information on my website. I'm going to rewrite that email that Joanne sends out to new reading requests. And I'm going to say, make sure that everyone in your group knows what this is. Okay? You have to tell everybody that this is a psychic medium reading, and we'll all be sitting together in a group. So if anyone's hesitant about that, don't twist their arms because it could ruin the chances of you yourself getting a good reading. It's not like I just won't read them. I might not be able to read you if you invite somebody who's overly skeptical. So don't twist anyone's arm. Okay. Also, he'll only drive to this areas. Also, don't drink any alcohol. Also, it's a flat rate of this much money, no matter how many people are read. Also, here are the dates. Also, he won't go after 7 p.m. I'm like, wow, this email is getting really long. How do I make sure that people are going to read all of this information? They're not. They're not. Because it got to the point where it's like the information's in the email. Now there's a link to the YouTube video. Hey, pass this link along to your friends so that they get it too, because, everyone's disposition and energy towards me will affect the quality of the reading. So it's very important that you pass this information along to everyone in your group so that they know too. And here's a link to the website, and here's a link to the information. Here's some information on YouTube. And it got to the point where I show up and everyone's drinking, and I'm like, did you see the email? It's so frustrating. And, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. It's frustrating to me because I set aside my whole day to meditate, be like a monk, eat light, eat like a salad, don't have the coffee, don't eat fast food, get a lot of rest, be prepared that at whatever, 7 p.m., when I arrive at your doorstep, I am ready to enter into this spiritual, trance-like state, this altered, vortex of energy that's going to surround the whole room. I'm going to connect to your heart and your soul, and those in spirit connecting to you. And we're going to have this huge, therapeutic, deeply spiritual, life-transforming moment that we're going to share this moment together. And you're arguing with me about how much wine that you've had to drink, and you didn't have that much, and you have no idea what this is about. You have no idea. It's like, oh God, it's so frustrating, because then what? Now I've lost that money. Now I'm driving 2 hours home feeling depleted, feeling drained, and my cell phone bill is due. My car insurance is coming up. What do? Now maybe I can book another reading. I can squeeze them in this weekend. And now I've got 4 in a row. That can be bad. I mean, now I'm coming out of that reading drained. There's another reading scheduled for the next day. Also another drive, also another 6 people, also who knows what you're walking into, also have to be like a monk, eat the salad, take the nap, get prepared, start it all over again. You can't be drained from the previous reading or else it'll snowball, right? So it's imperative that people understand the energy requirements of this reading with me, or I will suffer personally in a very profound way, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially. This is important, right?
There have been times where you've had to clear out the room because you haven't wanted to speak in front of other people. Like you felt like you wouldn't be able to give it like a clear message with other people around. I think sometimes that, a higher power is telling you different ways that you can, convey private messages if it's a group setting.
So now that I've gone on that little tirade, it's not all bad. I got to tell you, I've been doing it for so many years. I wouldn't do it if it was all bad. There are beautiful, amazing experiences that happen that are like so gratifying, so personally fulfilling. It's so nice to be a part of people's journey, people's healing, to be a conduit of that energy. It feels wonderful. I mean, it sounds corny, but like I can feel that love flushing through my whole body, and it feels amazing. And people, after the reading, they're like crying, they're sniffling, they get the Kleenex, they get up, they get some water. I'm talking to them after the reading. They're like, "Can I get a hug?" I'm like, "You can get a hug. That's cool." And that's really nice, and that keeps me going. That's fuel in the tank right there.
A friend of ours, a local girl, had just passed away, like maybe the day before, and she actually kind of came through, but didn't realize she had passed. And you were like, oh my gosh, she doesn't know. She's just realizing that she's not here. So, and then, you had talked about it. She wanted ice cream, and apparently, so it must have been a few days because the funeral had happened already, and someone was talking about an ice cream truck jumped into the funeral procession to the cemetery. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
So like trying to chase after this euphoric therapeutic session, this amazing experience, like it leads to me trying to get all the science and data behind my mediumship ability. When does it work? When does it not work? And can I make it work more often? Can we get that experience to happen every single time for as many people as possible? It's like any job. Your job performance, you get into it, right? If something, streamlines your job performance, you're going to want to take that on, right? So maybe I have to avoid coffee before a reading. Turns out it's true. I think I got better readings when I was like in this awake, natural, alert, relaxed headspace. I have to be there, So it's like, can I take allergy medicine? No. No, I have to, I have to look after my own personal energy. But then there's all these other things too, like kind of things that are out of my control. I think in this episode, I'm going to let myself take like a deep dive into those beginning years of being like a medium every week, every month, like sometimes 4 and 5 readings a week, driving all over the place. I bottled up a lot of I don't know, like frustration, I guess you'd say. Like when I would show up and I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to deliver the goods today. And then it didn't work, and I'm like, shoot. What the heck, man? I mean, what do you do? Like, it keeps me humble. It keeps me honest. I can't charge for it, I'm not going to charge for like a wishy-washy reading. I want you to feel the love, man. That's what I do. So, I'd hand people's money back, or I'd say like, maybe we can reschedule, maybe we can move it to another house. Maybe we can, tell Julie not to be there next week. Maybe she needs to not be there. Maybe there's something going on with her, like a timing issue, and I'll read her separately on the phone, no extra charge. We'll read her privately. Like, I'm just looking to like play with all these different factors and dynamics. And over the years of doing readings, I mean hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of readings, you start to see patterns emerge, It's like you start to realize that there's like, if I change this one thing, boom, it'll snap into place. Well, I got to do that, right? Because I want it to snap into place. Look, I know it's awkward, but, we got to do this thing. We have to go to this back bedroom. We have to go over to your aunt's house. We have to do this in 2 more weeks. I got to come up here and you got to add a 7th person, whatever it was that I could like feel it out to make that like, bam, it's snapping. There it is. I can feel it. We got to do that thing because it's worth it. Because, oh man, if I can make this happen, like this could be life altering. This could be huge. I'm chasing after that high, man. If you only do 10 readings, who knows why one worked and why one didn't. But if you do 200 readings and you start to see like, well, that's funny because we were sitting in this one room in the house and it didn't work. And I kept saying, why don't we go to the back room? Is there a den back there or something? Yeah, there is. Can we go back there? And then it worked. Okay. What was up with that? Well, turns out the den was part of the old section of the house, and the first room we sat in was an addition that was built 3 years ago. Okay, that's interesting. And then, a couple weeks later, I'm at a reading, and I'm like, man, it's not coming together. And, it's like, can we go to Nancy's house? Is there a Nancy? Oh my gosh, my cousin, yeah, she lives right down the street. We were going to invite her, but she couldn't make it. We could call her up. It's a little bit later now. She might be home. Okay, let's go to Nancy's. And then it works. Was Nancy supposed to be in the reading? Or wait, hold on. Nancy's house is like 100 years old, and the first house we were sitting at was built 10 years ago. Huh. Interesting, right? And so the more data I'm collecting, the more I'm seeing patterns. I'm starting to see patterns.
She had a couple dogs. We all had appetizers and cheese and crackers and whatever. It was me, you, Lisa, and Nancy, and we ended up at Nancy's house. And Lisa had to leave because she was interfering. She was too hard to read, but she knew it was going to be that way, so she got up and left. And you said to me, I'm getting a grandmother spirit or a spirit who's looking at you asking, doesn't my dress look nice? And you were smoothing your hand across your waist. And you said, what is this person holding? Butterscotch Lifesavers. That is my grandmother. And you said she's winking at me. She had a nervous twitch in her eye. She's winking at me and she's holding something in her hand. She was a diabetic and she always had Butterscotch Lifesavers for when her sugar got low. She would eat them. Oh my God, she must really be here because how could you possibly know that? Then I said to you, how come it's always that grandmother that comes through? Because the other grandmother, my dad's mom, is who I was most close to. And you said, she is here. She's in the sliver moon. And I literally burst into tears because sliver moon's my favorite thing ever. It stops me. If I'm driving or I'm out walking my dog and I look up and I see it, it moves me.
It turns out that the older the home, the older the room that we're sitting in, the chances of me producing that quality experience kind of increase. It becomes easier for me to fall in, less of my physical energy, less of my own personal psychic drain. It just comes together and clicks more easily, right? Okay, it doesn't have to be 100 years old. So, okay, now I'll put it like this on the website. Homes that are 10 years old or newer will not work for this style of reading. And then I show up. Yeah, this house was built 50 years ago, but we completely gutted it down to the studs and renovated it. Not gonna work. Are you kidding me? Like, wait, so is it in the walls? Is it in the floor? Renovations now, I have to include that. Homes that have been recently remodeled or renovated will not work for this style of reading. Okay, how do I word this so that it's not getting so wordy? And then it becomes like you just have to let go and let God, right? So then I'm like, forget it. Let's just see what happens. I'll just say it should be an older home. And then you run into the problems again. 2-hour drive, you show up, the reading doesn't work, you're drained, you're driving home again with the dark circles under your eyes, feeling bleak and hopeless, and you don't have money for the bills. Okay, no, I do have to say something. I can't just let go and let God. I have to take this more seriously. I have to set personal boundaries. This is a self-care thing. I have to say this for me. I can't just keep getting rolled over. So, okay, let's put it out there. Let's reword it again, you know? It's kind of hard to put this into words, but there's an energy that comes into a reading. Even the word energy is not really describing what it is, but it's close enough, you know? I'm looking for this feeling place. I'm looking for this vibe, this energy that washes through me and kind of pulls me into this other frequency. It's like there's reality, the physical reality that's being broadcast on the FM radio band. We'll use that metaphor. And right in the same airspace, there's another band called the AM radio, right? So there's two different frequencies happening in the same place. Well, if you build up enough of that other frequency, that other AM signal, then the reality, the FM signal, kind of switches back. And what I end up feeling is the other signal being broadcast more. So it's like it takes me out of perceptual awareness of the room, of the sofa, and the paintings, and the fireplace, and I don't even see it. I start to feel the other frequency more. It pulls me in. That's the thing I'm looking for. It's really hard to describe this to anybody who has like a very weak AM radio or none at all. Like maybe they only have the ability to tune into the physical world. So I'm sitting here coming in talking about energy and how rooms hold energy and the age of the house and how everyone's disposition and attitude towards me affects this channel. I don't think it computes. Like people just don't understand it, or they think I'm just crazy, or I don't know what they think. People just don't understand. So you end up, going through the details like the age of the house has to be this. And, I've noticed better readings in certain layouts even. If it's like an open floor plan and everyone's spread out really far on all these different chairs and sofas, and it's like the kitchen leads to the dining room, leads to the living room, and then you pull out a dining room chair for me and I'm sitting, way out in the middle of the room, and it's like nobody ever really sits in that spot on the carpet. It's like more of a walk-through area. All that walking through creates a flow, creates an energy that goes through the room and right out the window on the other side of the room, It doesn't hold up in our room and swirl around, get pent up, increase, build up this whirlpool of energy, this other amplitude, this other AM signal, that never really builds. And so what you end up with is like a beautifully appointed room that looks great on the cover of Better Homes and Gardens. It's beautiful, you don't even want to sit on the sofas because everything looks showroom clean. Beautiful. I love that. I want that house. That looks great, but it's not going to work for what we're trying to do. We're trying to build up this, zhuzh, this energy, this life force spiritual vortex. And you know where that builds up really well? Older homes, things that haven't been renovated down to the studs. Rooms that are kind of smaller, rooms that have like 4 separate walls. They're like destination rooms, right? Like a bedroom has a door where you walk into the bedroom and then you're in the bedroom. It's not a walk-through space. The energy just holds up there. It's kind of interesting because when even people talk about like ghostly things, like they saw a spirit or they felt a presence, 9 times out of 10, they're feeling it in a destination room, like a bedroom or like a kitchen that's got this corner to it. And it's like that's the area that energy builds up, right? Think about how many times kids think there's something in a closet, something under the bed. Those are like these destination spots that don't have a lot of physical human beings walking through. It doesn't like create that flow. And so you get this like pent up whirlpool of energy that just holds in that spot, right? That's where people see ghosts, because that's that energy that I need to do the reading. How do you explain that to people? So it got to the point where I started actually illustrating rooms, drawing out layouts and putting them on my website. Like, here's an example of a room that would work great. Here's an example of a room that will not work. And here's another example, And I tried to show people, if your room is laid out like this, good. If it's laid out like this, not good. And I'm expecting people to read all of the information that Joanne first sends them. I'm expecting them now to pass along this YouTube video link to all their friends and to tell everybody about the drinking. Don't drink beforehand. Don't drink before coming. And now I'm also expecting them to look at illustrations of rooms. No one's going to do this, man. They could just hire another medium. Like, I'm expecting way too much of people. So the room illustration thing, that's not going to work. I took that off my website almost as soon as I put it on there, It's no good. It's just too much.
You did a reading here at my house. My sister was here, my daughter, my niece. My mom came through on that one. Like I said, she had passed October 2010. So she came through. She had not come through for a couple readings in between then. She came through and my sister was there and said some cute things and patted you on the shoulder and said, "Good job, Scott," at the end. And I don't know if you remember in that same reading, remember our friend Crystal? She felt like she knew you pretty well. Well, then, she moved to California and then she ended up getting lung cancer and she passed away. Yeah, so she also came through on that reading at my house. At first, you didn't realize that she had passed away. And then you were like, "Oh my, Crystal," she wanted to, and you were like, "Oh no, we can't do that, Crystal." Like, she wanted to take over the reading. And you were like, "No, we can't do that." So that was pretty crazy.
I mean, I first started realizing this thing about energy and the room layout and the energy of the building that we're sitting in when I was doing those big group readings. Like, even that first big, 62-person reading at the fire hall, I must have spent like an hour fidgeting with chair layouts because I kept putting my antenna out, kind of feeling like that frequency. Is that other, radio signal there? Can I feel it? I don't know. This room's kind of open. I'm moving chairs around. I'm feeling, maybe if I set it up with this orientation, and I'm playing with the chairs, trying to feel out is it clicking? Can I feel it? Until I get to the place where I'm like, yeah, but that center aisle, that goes right towards the door. I can feel the energy flowing out into the door. I'll set up some tables to block that. Let's see how that feels. And I'll put some chairs in front of that table and yeah, I think this will work. And when I was doing the 10 to 12 person readings at Hughes Street in the historic Cape May, and there was this one couch in the corner where the two people who sat in that corner, I noticed I was having a hard time reading. And then it'll be next week, and then a whole new group of 10, and those two people, new people, happen to be sitting in that couch over in that corner, and I didn't read them at all. And now I'm like, hey, could you guys maybe switch chairs really quick and see if I can read you? And oh yeah, there you go, now I can read you. And it kept happening where I'm like, that's the bad corner. Let's see who sits there, And it felt like a good couple feet, 3-4 feet into the room where that one corner was, it didn't exist in the room on the other dimension. It's crazy, right? Weird. So these dynamics, I got more and more into sensing and feeling them, even before a reading. I would show up to do a reading in someone's house and they'd be like, "Is this room okay?" I'm like, "Let me take a look." And I would stand there for a minute, close my eyes, put my feelers out, and I'm like, is there another room that we could go to? Yeah, you want to try downstairs? Oh, you have it downstairs? Let me see that, Walk down the stairs. Oh, this room? Okay, let me put my feelers out here. Yep. This is it. Yep, this is good. Yeah, let's do the reading here. This is going to work. Okay, you want to go downstairs? He's going to go downstairs, everybody. This happened all the time. It got to the point where I was really good at feeling things. I could walk in and we're sitting around eating the pepperoni and cheese and the crudité and talking about, when'd you know you were a medium and yada yada. And I'll be like, yeah, talking. And so were you thinking about doing it in that living room up front? Yeah, that's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to work. Really? Really? Yeah. Is there like a bedroom we could go into? You want to go into a bedroom? I don't know. Is there another room? Well, sure. There's a guest room up there. Let's take a look. I'm like, what's in that room? Well, that's my bedroom. Could we fit like 6 chairs in there? I think so. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. Can we pull up chairs? And now I'm like taking dining room chairs and I'm walking up the steps with them, like, don't bump into the walls because people have nice walls. Like, okay, this happened all the time. Like, I would just show up. Hi, I'm the medium and I'm about to rearrange your furniture. I'm about to go into the room that's a mess. I'm about to move all your chairs around because I could feel the energy and I'm like looking for it to click. People must have thought I was insane. But once the reading worked, they don't think I'm insane anymore. Now they're just like totally floored emotionally that I brought through all their family and I like read their soul. Who cares if I move the furniture and the chairs at that point, right? That's all they're going to talk about with their friends is the reading experience. They'll forget to even mention about the chairs being moved at that point because it was a crazy experience, so it doesn't matter, right?
One reading we did at my friend Michelle's house a while back, maybe like 4 years ago or so, and she put a lot of time and effort into setting up one area. And it was like an upstairs, large bedroom type of area, but you took one look at that upstairs and you just went completely blank and you were like, no, not up here. We moved it into her bedroom, which took like 3 minutes to set up. And sure enough, we had it like one of the best readings of all time. So you know what you need and people should listen to what you need when you say like the setup.
And you know what? You take on their energy sometimes, which is really cool to watch. And you kind of like, luckily you can navigate this because I've seen you take on almost like a chip, like on your shoulder, not like you personally, but you can tell the personality that is coming through almost has a bit of a chip on their shoulder and they kind of talk with like a little attitude or like kind of just like a way about them where you're like, oh, okay, this is way different than that other energy. And it like came right through and forceful and it was like right there on the surface.
Like as I'm kind of getting bigger and expanding into different areas, I'm like, I need to do like a 25, 30 person reading, like up in Cherry Hill or over in Philadelphia, like maybe up to Tom's River. I would go up to these places looking for like rooms that we could rent, like, all right, if I go to this hotel, do they have like a meeting room? Was it like a hotel built in the 80s and that floor with the executive meeting rooms hasn't been renovated since then? We'll probably be all right. Like, is this crazy? Yes, it is. Another hotel you go to, the whole place was just built 2 years ago and now I'm in this room trying to do the reading. Not gonna work out so good. Like, I have to go to the place and put my feelers out and like, yeah, I'll take this room. This is the room that I want,
I did the meditation class with you. Actually, me and Crystal and my other girlfriend, Jenny, did it with you at that house on U Street. And then also I brought my mother-in-law to a group reading there that you did. And she had a really good reading from you about her mother passing away, which was when we're talking about like 60 years ago. Yeah, and like you pretty much told her exactly how she died, which she knew already because I guess her mom's sister was kind of watching her. She was ill. She left the room to get tea and came back and she had passed. So that was always the story, and that's exactly what you said. And she was just like, wow, that's exactly what I know happened.
I see her sitting down at a table. She's like having like tiny little snacks. She has like this smorgasbord, I believe is the word you used, what she used. And you're like, but they're like snacks and like cakes and desserts. And you're like, and she's looking to you guys and saying like, oh, I can have this now, which is like exactly how it would have went because she was diabetic and struggled with it and always wanted just a sliver of like little things and wanted to pick on them all the time. And
you threw an aside in there, which was food related, which I feel like you always have a food thing. I don't know if you know that, but at least with my readings, there's always like a little a little food thing.
After all of this, I would still show up and people are like, "Oh, so you're a card reader?" I'm like, "No, I'm like a channeler. I'm like a spirit, like an energy guy." "Oh, what? What are you like I'm going to talk to the, deceased relatives?" "Oh, no, I don't want to do that." We're sitting here eating the pepperoni and cheese and she's like, "Oh no, I don't believe in that. You can't talk to the dead. That they're in heaven and that goes against, Jesus. That goes against." I'm like, "Oh boy, we're going to have an issue here." I remember once telling somebody, "You have to leave in order for me to read the group. I'm sorry. I can try and read you in private over the phone. No extra charge. We'll try it later. But for right now, you have to leave." And this one woman says, "I'm not leaving." And I was like, "Okay, well, if you stay though, I can't do the reading." "Well, I'm not leaving." Okay, so then the reading's over. And everyone's looking at each other, and I'm looking at them like, "Do you understand that the reading's over because this woman refuses to leave?" And like, what kind of person does that? Like, what's going on with her? Did she think like I was the devil and she has to stay there to protect everybody against me? Why would you hire me? But yet, I would continually get hired to come out to these situations. So, it's not all the time. Like I said, I'm just letting myself rip it, man, on this podcast episode because these are things that I've like kept private for a very long time because I've always been like, let's do sunshine and rainbows, let's do bright colors on the website and Smiley Scott pictures and great YouTube videos. And like, that's what it has to be so that you understand like, this guy's friendly. Like, this is good. Because if you have that attitude, then we're good. Then we're good. The reading's going to come together great, So I keep all this stuff to myself until this episode where I'm like, what? People. Oh,
There were 6 people in the room, and my sister was by the front door of the house, and I was around the corner by the kitchen door, and it was a rainy night, and we heard a chair on the front porch move, and you said, "Oh, there's a collie outside." Now, of all the dogs that you could choose in the world, you choose a collie, and my father inherited a collie from my uncle when my uncle passed away, and then my father died and it went to my mom. So, like, for a collie to be there with my sister and I right there. And then you even were swirling a glass the way my dad would swirl his drink with ice in it. Your movements were even like my father. So my sister got a great read from my dad, which she really needed. She's adopted into the family. So, and she was very close with my father. You got around to me, you said, "There's a whole bunch of people waiting in the kitchen for you." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" We kind of figured out who a few of the people were, my aunt, my grandmother. It was really neat to know that they're watching over me all the time, and it gives me a lot of peace.
It started off and you basically started saying, I have my notes, and you said, Maggie, Mag, and my sister called me Mag, and she was the only one, and then you said, there's only one person that uses this name.
You have no idea how much you've helped my family. Yeah, and you've totally helped Matt a million times over because he just really believed in what you were saying, and it just made him feel so much better. And you've done the same for Will. I mean, you've talked to Will a bunch of times and have just made him feel so much better with the things that you've said.
I don't know. I think maybe I should counter this episode with like an episode of beautiful, heartfelt stories, like... See, this is how I feel. Like, gosh, I let myself talk about all these like quirky, emotional human reactions that I'm having to readings, and it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll talk about like the great stuff next. I don't know. I only have a few more of these episodes left in me before we get up to the current time. The whole plan for the podcast was always to be like a serial format, they call it, like the old radio serial programs that it goes from one episode to another, but there's an end built in, right? Like at some point we're going to get up to, today, the current time. And then I don't know, I guess I'll call that season 1 and we'll be done with it at that point. Maybe I'll take a break for a while and think about what the next episodes will be. Maybe some other project, who knows? I'm just doing this, to do it because it feels good. I like looking back over my life. I like talking about these things. And if it can help anybody, cool, man. Hopefully everybody's entertained by it. But It is all word of mouth, everything that I do. It's all referral. It's all people talking. So if you enjoy the podcast, I would so much appreciate it if you could share it with your friend. Just like mention it, You can even share episodes, I think, to social media. You can copy links to each episode or to the whole show, I think. You can copy a link to the show and you can share it to your Facebook or Instagram feed and let people know. That brings us to the end of episode 9, so thank you for listening, and I appreciate all the great comments. If you want to share any thoughts about it with me, check me out on Facebook or Instagram, or you can even email me. I read them all. I might not have time to respond, but I do read them all, and just let me know your thoughts. I appreciate it. So thanks again for listening. I'll be up next Monday with a new episode. Have a good day, have a good week, and be cool.